This might come as a shock to some of you, but did you know that reading biblical commentaries is not actually reading the Bible? I told you it would come to a bit of a shock, be a bit of a shock to you. But like I said, do you know that reading biblical commentaries is not actually reading the Bible? Do you know that you cannot survive spiritually by watching sermons all day? Did you know that you cannot survive spiritually or grow immensely spiritually if all you do is just watch sermons and all you do is watch other videos online talking about the things of God? See, if you sit there all day listening to people talk about God, you're not going to grow spiritually immensely. Let me show you why. There are different types of food that we can eat physically, okay? So you have food in its potent form, i.e. fruits, vegetables, fruit straight out of the tree, vegetables straight out of the ground, drinking water. These are the best types of food, like broccoli and vegetables and all that good stuff there. Those types of foods are the best for our body. They're very, very potent. You can eat oranges, and we know oranges is a fruit potent, full of vitamin C and vitamins, and it's good for your body. So an orange is food in its raw form. Now, if you buy orange juice from a shop, then we know that orange has been tampered with or been touched by a human, and they have filtered it and processed it. So now that orange is not as potent as it would be if you had it straight from a tree. Then, as you know, you can go lower down the scale where foods become more and more processed until all the nutrients are taken out of the food. And if you eat that food, it's not potent at all, it's not helpful for your body, and it doesn't help your body to grow at all. Now, this is the same spiritually. Let me show you why. You see, what we need to do is that we have to consume spiritual food in its raw form, i.e. reading the word, praying, worshipping, praising, giving God thanksgiving, fasting. These are spiritual activities or spiritual food in its raw form, in its most potent form. When it comes to you watching sermons all day or reading commentaries, it's like the orange that's been filtered or squeezed by someone else. See, is there anything wrong with it? Yeah, it's all right, you can drink it, or you can you can consume sermons, you can consume commentaries, you can learn that way. It's not a problem with that whatsoever. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a more potent way, a more potent form, or a potent way to consume spiritual food, i.e. reading the word. It's really interesting when you think about it, because what I've realized is that spiritual food goes on a sliding scale. It goes from potent form, like I said, reading the word, praying, worshipping, fasting, and all that good stuff. Then it goes down to people giving sermons, which is nothing wrong with sermons, but you can't live off sermons. You have to have the potent word. But people watch sermons. It's sliding down. Why? Because a sermon is somebody else's interpretation of what the word says, or a commentary is someone else who's done the learning, and you're just benefiting by their experience of what they've done. Nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but you can't live off that. You can't have a relationship with God by listening to someone else talk to you about the things of God. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a one-on-one relationship. But then it goes, like I just said, it goes on a sliding scale, because you go from sermons to start watching documentaries about the things of God. You watch documentaries, it's going down in nutrients, spiritual nutrients. Then you start going down into other kinds of research that's not beneficial, and it goes down and down and down until you're like watching Illuminati stuff all the time. See, when you're watching Illuminati videos and controversial videos, all that's happening really is that you're eating more processed word, or something that's more and more processed, and it's losing its spiritual content. Powerful, I just said to you right there. See, if you're just watching sermons and doing research about all these things that's happening in the earth, and you're researching the news and researching all these controversial topics and thinking, yeah, it's helping me grow in the things of God, let me tell you something. There's easier and more potent and quicker ways to grow in the things of God. And like I said, eat the spiritual food in its most potent form, which is reading the word, prayer, worship, edification, or edifying your brother and sister as iron sharpeneth iron, and all that good stuff. It's more potent, it's more beneficial for you to do that. You will get more stronger in the things of God by having spiritual food in its most potent form than watching sermons all day, or reading commentaries all day, or watching controversial videos that you think is going to help you grow. You know, I'm watching, you know, Kanye West is speaking about this and speaking about that. It's very, very interesting what he's saying. You know, I can see God moving in his life. Yeah, I get all that. But let me tell you something. You're not going to grow spiritually by watching Kanye West controversial videos of him exposing whatever. No, you're going to grow more faster and more potent if you're in the Word, and you're in prayer, and you're in worship. See, listen to me, okay? There's an apostasy on the horizon. And the only way for you to escape that apostasy, the falling away, is for you to be consuming the Word of God or consuming spiritual things in its most potent form. Because if you are watching videos that hasn't got that spiritual content, or that haven't got that spiritual nutrients, it's, you know, it's down the sliding scale, you're just wasting your time. Because I can show you something that's quite interesting as well, is that if we watch a lot of things on Netflix, like videos, documentaries and series and box sets on Netflix, they've got no spiritual content whatsoever, no nutrients. So when you get down to that end of the scale, you start going in the opposite direction, which starts going into food, spiritual food, that has been, that is, what's the word called, is packed with demonic nutrients. Woo! You're thinking, demonic nutrients? Yeah, demonic nutrients. And these demonic nutrients is what feeds your flesh. Oh my days, we're going there. So for example, if you're watching horror films, horror movies, you are consuming demonic food that is doing something to your flesh, growing your flesh. If you're watching pornography and you're watching all these kinds of crazy things online and on TV and all the rest of it, all that's doing is that it's giving your flesh spiritual nutrients. If you're committing fornication, doing witchcraft and all this stuff here, what you are doing is that you are partaking in activities that are demonically nourished, or they will nourish your flesh. Demonic nourishment, and you don't want that. And there are demonic, like I said, there's potent forms of demonic nourishment, i.e. moving in the flesh, for example. It's going to feed your flesh. It's packed with demonic nutrients that's going to put you in bondage and slavery to the devil. That's why I'm saying to you that we have to be on the other side of the scale, where we are consuming spiritual nutrients in its most potent form. That's where we're supposed to be spending most of our time. But where we spend a lot of our time is kind of like in that middle place, where we're kind of like watching, we read a little bit of Bible, do a little bit of prayer, and then we do a little bit of watching a few sermons, and we think, yep, that's good. But then we go into the Netflix side of things, watching box sets and all the rest of it, and then up to like kind of like those, I don't know, what's those things? House of the Dragon, for example, or Game of Thrones, for example. Now, it's not demonic, but it's not crazy demonic, but it's going up that scale that goes to the flesh. It's going up that way. And we're kind of like in between that area there. And that's where we find ourselves. And let me tell you something, if you're in that area there, you're not really going to experience the Zoe life, or the life more abundant, like Christ said that we shall have, John chapter 10, verse 10. You're not really going to enjoy that, are you? Because you're in that middle place. You're kind of feeding the flesh, half flesh, and you're kind of feeding the spirit. You're in the middle. That middle place, that mediocrity, that halfway up the mountain is not going to be helpful for you. So we can see that a lot of our problems are attached to that place. The devil doesn't mind us being in that kind of like mediocrity sort of place spiritually. He doesn't mind us being there, because he knows that when we're there, we're going to be kind of in bondage and a little bit of victory, and we're not really going to be growing that much spiritually. It's not going to be explosive spiritual growth, where we might be growing a little bit. We're doing our spiritual part. The devil don't mind that. Why? Because the anointing is not going to be exploding in your life. The fire of God to bring change is not going to be exploding in your life. You're not going to hear God that clearly. You probably won't even hear him at all. And because you're in that place. So what am I saying is that we need to get to that place where we are purposely feeding our spirit the potent spiritual food in its raw form, not diluted, just like I said with your body. If you're going to eat food that's been diluted down and processed, it's not going to be good for your body. Am I speaking to myself? Of course I'm speaking to myself. I'm not just speaking to you. This is actually a voice note, this is a video for myself. So I could play this video back in a couple weeks' time to remind myself what God has just said. So I can look at my life and start to get things in better order, okay? Because some people would think to themselves, just because someone is ministering, that they got their life together. No, it doesn't work like that. All we're human beings, we all have challenges. Yes, and your man of God that you go to in your church, yeah, your man of God's got issues too. So is your bishop and your apostle and your prophet. They've all got issues. And if they try going like they haven't got no issues, then they're lying. Because when we're in this human flesh we have right now, we're always going to be challenged, always going to be challenged. But that's for another day. So like I said, listen, let's get to the food, spiritual food in its raw form, and let's eat the physical food in its raw form as well. We'll talk about broccoli and pineapples, yeah? And drinking lots of water. Anyway, I shall see you guys in the next video. Make sure you leave a comment down below.